What's up, fellow camera nerds? My name is Cooper Naitove and I'm a photographer and DP based right here in Brooklyn, New York. Adorama sent me some more gear to play with this week and I can't wait to share it with you. This time we're heading to Portugal to test out Sony's line of G-Series full-frame primes as well as Sony's full-frame A7C. Portugal is a country I've been dying to get to for years. I'm super grateful for Adorama giving me the opportunity to finally get a chance to go. With its gorgeous cliff-lined beaches and historic cities, I figured a road trip through Portugal would be the perfect way to put this gear to the test. First though, let's talk about the A7C. Compared to my A7R III, the form factor took a little getting used to. While it does have a full-frame 24 megapixel sensor, the body is much smaller and more similar to an A6600. Even though the wheel layouts are a bit different than my A7R III and the viewfinders on the side, it didn't take long to get the hang of shooting with the A7C. Three things I really liked about this camera compared to mine were the articulating touchscreen, awesome AI autofocus tracking, and in-body 5-axis stabilization. First, the articulating touchscreen monitor was far superior to the one on my camera. The touch focus function worked flawlessly. Even though I don't normally use autofocus when shooting video, this made it really easy to choose my focus point. The next thing I really loved about this camera was the autofocus tracking. Sony has implemented an AI-based real-time focus tracking system right into the A7C, and I was blown away by its performance. I've tried this test tons of times with loads of different cameras, and honestly, this is the best I've ever had it work out. Although I think my favorite thing about the A7C was the in-body 5-axis sensor stabilization. Shooting handheld video on a small camera is tough, and without the in-body stabilization, there was no way I would have gotten nearly as much usable footage. What I really went on this trip to test out though was this set of 24, 40, and 50mm 2.8 Sony G Primes. The first thing to note about these lenses though is that they shouldn't be confused with Sony's G Master line of lenses. While these are optically and physically beautiful lenses, they aren't quite on par with their G Master series. If you've seen any of my videos before, you'll know that I'm not a huge fan of the prime lens workflow when I'm traveling. Between carrying around the extra weight to missing shots by having the wrong focal length on, for traveling, I generally prefer a fast zoom. However, I was actually really surprised to find out that these lenses actually made up for most of the issues I normally have while shooting with prime lenses. As they were designed with the travel photographer in mind, these lenses are tiny and super light. Even with their fully metal construction and large 2.8 aperture, they managed to be only around 6 grams each and small enough for them to fit all three in a fanny pack. This made swapping between lenses super easy as I didn't have to take my backpack off and put it back on each time I wanted to change lenses. Another thing that made life much easier was the fact that all three lenses had the same 49mm filter size. This was great because it meant I didn't have to carry around multiple different filters and step-up rings. My one ND filter fit on every lens. Another really cool feature of these G-Series primes was the external aperture ring. I've been shooting a lot of 35mm film lately, and having an external aperture control ring makes the transition between film and digital that much easier. Should you want to control your aperture like normal though, just click the lens over to the A position and you control it right in the camera. Speaking of click, there's also an aperture click and declick switch. Normally with each different aperture setting, the ring clicks right into place. If you engage the declick switch though, the ring rotates smoothly between aperture values. This is great for shooting video because it lets you select values in between each displayed aperture number and allows you to really fine-tune your exposure. As you'd expect, these lenses also have an autofocus on-off switch. The manual focus rings are super well dampened and they have a great feel to them as well. And finally, my favorite feature of these lenses was the fact that each one of them had an assignable button on the side. In camera, you can actually map this button to nearly any function, but personally, when shooting with prime lenses, I program mine to toggle APS-C mode. As I mentioned before, lack of focal length flexibility is one of my biggest issues when shooting with prime lenses. However, being able to toggle between APS-C and full frame mode means that you can effectively get 2 focal lengths out of one lens. This is super helpful when shooting video because it lets you vary your coverage of a scene without actually having to swap your lenses every time you want to punch in for a detail shot. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to judge the sharpness of a lens by a video clip, so on this trip I took a bunch of stills as well. As you can see, these lenses are super sharp from edge to edge and produce little to no vignetting. Between their lightweight, manual aperture rings, assignable buttons, and beautiful image quality, I think these lenses are an awesome choice for all sorts of different kinds of photography and video. I think these lenses would actually work really well for all you gimbal shooters out there because of the fact they're basically all the same size and the same weight, so it's not really going to adjust your balance when you switch lenses. Thanks so much for watching, and if you want to see more of the awesome content Adorama is putting out, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, please let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Have a good one.